There are special rules available to individuals that are called eligible designated beneficiaries when you're inheriting an IRA from someone. Who qualifies? What's the benefit? I've got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Eligible designated beneficiary. What a confusing term. It actually is very important and could really mean the difference between a lot of tax planning, tax strategy, and delaying or avoiding a lot of tax or not. Right? And so got a question based off of one of the videos we'd created recently from a fan of the show, and here's what he asked. My mom passed away in August of last year, and I inherited an IRA from her. My question is whether I am an eligible designated beneficiary. I'm age 70 years old, and I'm a disabled veteran. If you can help, let me know. Great question. Thank you for reaching out, and my sincere condolences for the loss of mom. And oftentimes, financial planning, real financial planning is where finances and real life intersect. And oftentimes real life has some bad stuff in it. And so you're dealing with grieving and mom's passing, and you've got some financial decisions and some stuff that doesn't make a ton of sense. And yet you've done your homework. I can see that because you asked, do I qualify as an eligible designated beneficiary? So here's what that means. If you inherited an IRA from someone who passed away before 1/1 of 2020, so this has nothing to do with COVID or any of the stimulus bills. This was the Secure Act 1.0 was passed in late 2019, took effect 1/1 of 2020, and it changed a lot of things regarding inheriting a retirement account. It got rid of something called the stretch IRA, and it imposed something new called the 10-year rule. Okay, so if you inherited an IRA, pre-tax, retirement account, or 401k, by the way, from someone who passed away before 1/1 of 2020, so before this rule took effect, then you were able to draw out as much from that inherited IRA as you needed to or wanted to. You wanted to cash the whole thing in, you could do so. You wanted to withdraw half of it, you could do so. But if you didn't want to cash out any of it, because when you withdraw those dollars, you've got to pay tax on it. It's not penalized because you received it because someone passed away. But if you said, I don't want this money right now, I don't need it on my tax return, and I don't want to withdraw any, I want it to grow for my future, the rules were, well, you got to at least take out a little bit. You were required to take an annual required minimum distribution from that inherited IRA, but that's the minimum that you needed to take out. You could leave the rest of it in there. And what they called this was the stretch IRA, because you did this calculation based on your life expectancy, just drew a little bit out. Oftentimes the IRA would grow more than what you withdrew, so this account would grow and would be there, and you could stretch it out over your lifetime. Well, Secure Act 1.0 took effect 1/1 of 2020, and it replaced that. It grandfathered everyone that had passed away under those old rules, but starting with anyone that passed away 1/1 of 2020 and after, it replaced it with the 10-year rule. And I've done I've created a lot of videos on this because it is very confusing, but essentially what it's introduced is the account, the inherited IRA, now needs to be emptied by the end of the 10th year after death, okay? And so if the person that passed away was already at their required beginning date and they were taking required minimum distributions, you got to do a required minimum distribution starting this year, by the way, and still have the account emptied within 10 years. So that's the new rule. All that explanation, all those words that you might not have been able to follow, but never did I mention an eligible designated beneficiary. So what in the world is that? Well, those are the exceptions. Those are the important exceptions to this new rule. Those are the individuals that actually can still stretch under the old rules, even though someone passed away. You're inheriting an account after someone passed away after 1/1 of 2020. So who are this special group of exceptions that are called eligible designated beneficiaries? Surviving spouses are still able to stretch it if they want to, okay? Most times, surviving spouse says, I want to make the IRA my own, okay? And they move it over to their own, and now the rules are as if that money was always theirs. But they could. if they were younger than age 59 and a half and they wanted access to those dollars, typically it would say it would make sense for them to not make that IRA their own, keep it as an inherited IRA, and then stretch it out over their lifetime, because you can avoid penalties. That's a topic for a whole nother video. I've done some on it before. So surviving spouse, that's one. Minor children of the account owner, and minor children is 21 or younger. As soon as they reach 21, then that 10-year rule starts, by the way. Disabled individuals, chronically ill individuals, and an individual that's not more than 10 years younger than the account owner. Think of it like you inherited an account from your sibling, and they were taking required distributions. Now you're able to stretch, so you're taking required distributions. It's almost like, well, that's the same thing, and the IRS in this law gave us sort of that same treatment. So that's the list of exceptions. Again, eligible designated beneficiary. So this individual, thank you for your question again, and yes, if you meet the qualifications of being disabled, then yeah, you would be considered an eligible designated beneficiary, and you could stretch this IRA that you inherited from mom over your lifetime. Now, how do they define disabled, right? Is that up to interpretation? No, there's any occupation or your own occupation. Any occupation, like you can't perform any job, or no, you just can't perform your own job. You could go get a different one, but the job that you were trained to do that you've been doing throughout your career was a surgeon. You can't be a surgeon anymore, and therefore you're disabled. Which definition are they using? Any occupation. So depending on how you were considered disabled, and if you were Social Security uses the same definition, by the way. So if you were receiving Social Security disability and were deemed disabled from being able to perform any occupation, then that would apply here as well, and you'd be one of the eligible designated beneficiaries. So I hope that helps. It's extremely confusing, so I would just cast the spotlight, as I always do, on comprehensive financial planning. If you inherit an IRA from someone, that's your spouse or not your spouse, that's a planning event, and you're grieving, and it's just awful. And so I would actually encourage you, have a certified financial planner in your life that you're doing comprehensive financial planning with before an event like that happens, and it's you can't time those, so be working with the CFP. So then if something like that happens, you're prepared, and then you can determine, do you qualify as an eligible designated beneficiary or not? And then what are the planning strategies? Because whether you do or whether you don't, you still have to make that planning decision every single year. Well, should I withdraw a lot out of the account or very little? What should we do? Is there the ability to repurpose some of these inherited dollars into other tax sheltered? Lots of planning opportunities, so work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.